is follow directions and put a zip tie on it. Yep, it's on the right mark. Put my zip tie on right here at the bottom. Okay, so it might not be the tightest zip tie, but that's what we want. We just want to keep it on on all the teeth of the crankshaft sprocket. Also, in the timing kit, you've got these. These are cam locking tools. I'm just going to lock one side at a time. So when I'm setting the time for the right cam, I'm going to use this one. And when I'm setting the time for the left one, I'm going to use the other one. Just because I don't want to jump at all, and that's what they're for. That is what they are for. So why not use them right? There's a guide that goes right here. How are we gonna get that guide in there? You just gotta relieve some slack again, then slide that guide on. You can't put the guide on first. You cannot do it. So don't even try. Okay, so I'm not gonna lie. It jumped off the teeth like accurately about 7 times. I don't think you're gonna bend your valves, even if it does spring. Paul said the same thing. I was on a phone call with him the other day. Believe that or not, I actually was. The girls that pick up the phone, or the guys, I'm not sure, because I didn't speak to them, they were on lunch, so he actually ended up picking up the phone, and I was lucky enough to speak to him. He said it doesn't matter. I didn't ask him, however, how you fix it, because I was already taking off everything to take off the head, because I thought, you know, I had to reset base timing, or I had to reset the valves, or, you know, push them in or something like that with the head off. Well, I didn't even know that I had that tool to move the cams in my kit. But honestly, I'm still glad that I took my head off and I got all the way down to the block. And yeah, I had to get ARP head studs, you know, because I had my head off. But anyways, yep, it's a game, but you got to play it if you want to do this. So now we're at the marks here, and I'm ready to put my other guide in. I put my bolts in. I didn't torque them down for that yet. I did torque these down, of course. You got to torque these down before you put this in, because it is behind it. So here we go. I got a bunch of slack over here. I don't have the zip tie on there anymore because I've got this guide in here, so it's going to hold it right on the same tooth that it needs to be at. And I'll let you know how this goes. This right here is a tensioner type dealio, and that's what goes bad on these cars. I mean, that's why I got this car. That right there, this tensioner that goes right here was bad. Maybe the chain was stretched, but you know, generally that tensioner goes out first. So I've got my tensioner on. See, I didn't pull the pin yet. I pulled the pin. This right here, I don't believe this is on the newer style tensioners, correct me if I'm wrong, but you do want to move this all the way to the left side. You want to get that in a groove. You see, I've got about one more groove to go. I guess I'm also going to be the one to tell you that notch right there, what looks to be a notch isn't a notch. This right here is the final notch to the left. You can't get it in that other one. You cannot get it in there. Alright, I got my cam bridge on. You don't want to have it crooked and then hit it and, you know, mess up the aluminum. So just be careful. Maybe take your time a little bit. But I ended up losing all of my steel screws. I believe these are steel, but I didn't have them. I don't know if they're TTY, torque to yield, but I sure didn't have them around. So wherever they ended up, I'll probably find them and maybe one day use them. Probably not, because why would I? But I had to go buy new ones. And while I was there at VW dealer, I need these too. So these need to be replaced every time. Also, before you put the cam bridge on, you need to lubricate your camshafts. So, you know, where it sticks out right there, before you put it around it, lubricate it, because that is a bearing. It really is. It has oil being sent to it in between here and the cam bridge. So just lubricate it, because you might not get lubrication as soon as you need to. It might start scoring that piece on the crankshaft before it starts pumping oil. So your first startup, it might start scoring it if you don't have lubrication right there. While I was at the dealer, I also got O-rings that go on the upper timing cover. You also need a gasket that goes around that upper timing cover. Luckily, I already have that. And this right here, if you get a new oil pan, you're going to take your level sensor out of your old one and put it on your new one. You should get new nuts for your new oil pan for that oil level pressure, oil level sensor. But you need a new gasket for it, and it's very specific, and it's also $18 from the dealer. So it's got some ridges on it, it's got some little tabs. Special. Last thing that I needed, I think. No, I'm lying. Second to last thing. These are new bolts. There's 6 of them. They go into here. They keep your cam magnet on your cam bridge. They are aluminum. You need to replace them every time you put new ones in. Yeah, I know. I could have probably cracked the windshield if it was a little heavier. But don't fret, I already have. The last thing I was being sent by an undisclosed company was windage tray O-rings. Here they are from the dealer, because they messed up twice. But it's okay, I'm not mentioning who it was because they made it right. So you gotta replace these. You don't have to, you could reuse them if they were good and they weren't crusty, and mine aren't. But a little peace of mind, I'm never going in here again, I hope. So why not just replace it? It was decently cheap. I think it was like $3 a piece. Anyways, you're never gonna find those O-rings at Napa. You're never gonna find them at O'Reilly's or Advanced Auto or AutoZone or anywhere you look for them, because they are very special. They're like 3 millimeters thick and something and a half wide or something like that, inner diameter. Anyways, that should be everything I need. I'll get back with you after I torque these bolts down, and after I put the lower and upper timing cover on. I'll probably tune back in. I'll probably show you my RTV job on the lower timing cover, and make sure you got your surfaces clean. You see I dripped assembly lube on there. I have to clean that off before I put that gasket on there for the upper timing cover, because that would just be stupid not to. And then after that, you're going to see my turbo gasket go on along with the turbo. And my intake manifold and the intake manifold bolts. You have to put new intake manifold bolts on. So this is all stuff you got to know. You better zip all your bags up in a little bag. I mean, you better zip all your bolts up in a little bag individually and write on them what they are, because just like my cam bridge bolts, I don't know where they are, and you won't either. Turbo oil cooler accessory line. This is the accessory. This is like an out, and this is an in. Okay, something like that. And you have to replace all of these gaskets, and I believe they are all different. Now you can see I made it say 35 right here, because, well, that's what it fits now. Yeah, I stripped it out. There was no way I was getting any more torque on that the way I had it stripped out. I think it only made it stronger. Now you know what to do if you strip it out. It's aluminum. You tighten it to 4 Newton meters, which is practically hand tight. Yeah, I knew I got it to 4, so I torqued it down, or I wanted to yield it and spin it 180, and well, that's what I did. I spun it out of there, and it was only about 90 degrees, so I finished it up with a 35 in there that I tapped with a hammer. So I went like this to tighten them up, and I'm gonna yield them the same way in the same pattern. So now you know the torque spec on that. Now you know to not let your bit slip out of there at all or be at the wrong angle, not even the slightest. Also, if you hate ladybugs like me, go ahead and drop a thumbs up. You can always change your mind later, you really can. But I'll be doing some videos on this thing and a couple other vehicles, so why not subscribe? You're gonna see a Mark 6 CC, you're gonna see a Mark 6 GLI, Mark 6 I believe, Beetle, the newer style, and you might even get some Bonneville content. It's a 97. I'm gonna get a stage 1 tune just to, waken it up, make it what it should be, but other than that, she's gonna be stock for a minute, boys. So I gotta move on to these other cars. I'm putting the gasket on the oil pan I bought, the upgraded oil pan. This is insane. There's no way I had to do that. Are you serious? So anyways, I'm putting the oil pan on. I got the windage tray on. The windage tray bolt is 4 Newton meters plus 45 degrees. Don't mess that up. You'll have to get another bolt because it snapped off in there. And good luck getting it out. So, how to put this gasket on? Put that tab in there and then just go around. Ta-da! Here I am putting the bolts in the oil pan. I've got to say something though. It's pretty crucial if you're not smart enough to do this already, okay? But I just have to make this known to everybody. Put in your bolts, but don't put them in all the way. Don't even tighten them, roughly hand tight. You want this to be able to move a little bit, because I just found out that this bowl hole didn't line up just perfect. It was off about 2-3 millimeters. It's important because you don't want to obviously put that screw in and strip it, okay? So I loosened these up just a little bit because I did run them all the way up with my hand because I thought it was aligned. I had one on this side, had one on the other side, and it was all the way up in there basically, hand tight, and it wasn't lined up on this corner. But I got the oil pan on that was 8 Newton meters plus 45 degrees, so after you get them tightened down to 9 to 8 Newton meters, you mark them, and then you turn them 45 degrees. So that's from 12 o'clock to like 1:30. That's the best way of explaining it. So, and the reason I marked it again right here with the little dot is just so I know which one had been done, because each one of the bolts, they're marked basically at different spots when you go around. You're marking this one right here and marking this one right here. It just kind of would be a little confusing not to mark them. Obviously you could check the torque again, or because after you torque them, then you mark them. So I don't know, it's just a little less confusing to do it that way. So that's how I did it. And you can see it's on the cherry picker right now. It's on the crane, very high up in the air. Pretty impressed with this $200 crane I picked up off Facebook. She's coming back together. Got to do the lower and the upper. You'll see me do the RTV on the lower, and I've got the torque specs for the upper and the lower already. So after that's knocked out, I'm gonna knock out the turbo. We're gonna set it on the ground for doing all these things, but then the manifold. So now that I got the oil pan on, I can set it on the pallet, not the ground. And you can just imagine how I was trying to torque all those down just with the pallet. I mean, I was basically crouched on the pallet, looking up. Yeah, gotta do the flywheel too. So let's stop talking about it, let's just do it. That's 60 Newton meters plus 90 degrees. All these bolts are one-time use. They're only in here loosely right now just to hold it on there. I had to find the one that was spaced differently. You can see this is it. I believe it's a greater distance between here, and these are all the same, besides one. So that's how it lines up. I'm gonna give you a little bit more info than everybody else online's giving me. So these right here are gaskets. These are where they go. It's a double gasket. Okay? It just is a little grommet type thing that seals both sides. So this seals your magnet, this seals your Cambridge, I guess. Yeah. So it's just one piece. It's not two. I don't think it matters which side goes in which. I will make sure so we both know together. Nope, doesn't really look like it matters. But let's see. Like I said earlier, quit talking about it. We're going to do it. You have your bolt in there all the time until you're ready to put your cover over it because you don't want your sprocket to get off of the crank. This stuff right here is the correct compound that you want to use. So it's not to be confused with this stuff here. This is 600. I don't know if that is what is the difference, but yeah, don't use this because this is gray and you got to use the black stuff. It also comes with one of these, so you want to squeeze your last little drop out and you want to get precise. There you go. So not to be confused with this. It's different. I've got it on, but I'm using the old bolts and you can't do that. I have them torqued down to 8 Newton meters. And that's because I don't have any bolts. I never bought them. I really never did. I just assumed I had them, I guess. So you should probably make a checklist after this video. I'm not gonna make it for you. So it'll be your little Easter egg hunt, but now you know everything you gotta replace. Get them before you put the RTV on there, because what I had to do was rush and I thought it was gonna set really quick. It actually takes about 24 hours to set, like fully, but I actually had to rush and clean up my lower timing cover bolts. My threads were all dirty. They had blue Loctite on them. So I'm going to pick some up. The dealer has some. Dang. I wanted to squeeze the RTV down. I didn't want to just, have to redo the RTV on the pan again, on the cover. I torqued it down to 8, and I didn't stretch the bolts with the 45 degrees. I think I'm golden. There's a chipmunk in the garage. I got my RTV squeezed down. I put enough on there, but not too much. You gotta know when's enough and when isn't enough. I wouldn't even put like as big as a pea. I think it was just a little smaller. But I didn't put a bunch, okay? I just put enough, and that's what you need to know. And this is what I had to do because I didn't have the bolts.